I am back here not to talk about an AdMob product, but to talk about a project that AdMob is really helping manage. And it is the project, an open source project called AdWhirl. I don't know how many of you are familiar with AdWhirl or mediation layers in general. Anyone show of hands? All right, some people, but not everyone. So it might be beneficial to do a little recap. Mediation layers are basically something that helps you, if anything, achieve a 100% fee rate. Because what it does, it is between the application that you have and the various ad networks that you can plug into it. All right? And all you would need to do would be take the mediation layer SDK, put this in your application. You need to effectively integrate the SDK for the various ad networks that you want to mediate across. And then you're able, server-side, to make allocation decisions between these various ad networks. So if at any point in time an ad network does not have an ad for you, and you don't want to use a house ad, you don't have to waste that request. You don't have to waste it. You could just route that particular request to another ad network. So that's, in a nutshell, what mediation layers do. And AdWhirl is a particular one. And it has a few things that is quite particular to it compared to what the other mediation layers you can find in the industry. What I want to point out here is AdWhirl was actually a company that was founded independently of AdMob, and AdMob acquired the technology. And the first thing that we did was to open source both the SDK as well as the server side. The server side code is effectively what manages the allocation decisions and all the dispatching of the various requests to the ad networks. And we did this for a very good reason. For us, a mediation layer to work, it has to be unbiased. It has to act only in the interest of the developers and follow very, very faithfully the preferences that the developers set. And so the best way for us to achieve that was to just completely open source it to make it transparent. So if you have any concerns about how unbiased or biased it might be, you can just look under the hood and check it for yourself. The second thing that we did, we made it free. And that's another aspect for a neutral mediation layer. If it is entirely free, there is no other kind of distortion, market distortion, that can come into these ad network allocation decisions. Sorry. So what, in addition to these couple of things that AdWhirl has, there is something else, like a couple of other advantages. You can also effectively use mediation layers to run house ads, because instead of having to decide on an ad network traffic by ad network traffic basis the percentage of allocation you want to give to house ads, you can just say, this is my entire inventory that I want to monetize. And I want to set aside a chunk of that entire inventory across all of the networks that I might be wanting to use to house ads. So it makes it very, very easy to handle any cross-promotion choices that you have. The other thing that mediation layers help you do, in addition to getting 100% fill rate, is maximize your revenue. Because one of the criteria that a lot of people will use to determine which network to call whenever they get an ad request is going to be how each of these individual networks perform. Okay? So this is kind of my sales pitch, if you want to call it sales pitch for AdWhirl, since it is free. But I'm going to stop here. I can take a couple of questions while we're setting up the demos, and I'm going to invite Justin and Nigel effectively show you what AdWhirl can do, both on the server side in terms of allocation decisions, as well as how you can integrate the AdWhirl SDK on both the Android platform, which we released very recently, and on iPhone. Any questions, quick questions on either mediation? Yeah? Should you integrate with AdMob or AdWhirl? Well, so that is the question. I have two answers for you. Number one is a mediation layer can transform a lot of or questions into and questions, right? Because you don't have to do one or the other. If you put a mediation layer without any ad networks, it doesn't work very well because you're not getting any ads. If you do choose to use a mediation layer, then AdMob is one of the networks that you can integrate with, but you can basically pick any other networks. Did I answer like half of your question with that? All right. And then as to the choice of using a mediation layer or not, this is definitely entirely up to you. If you're finding that you're making enough money with whatever setup you have, if you have either a homemade way of kind of making allocation decisions, or if you have a fill rate that's entirely satisfactory, there might be absolutely no reason to do that. If you want to try mediation, there's very little downside to doing it. Sorry, there's one question over there. Hi.
I'm curious, so let's say there's some traffic coming from international.
Yep.
Can your AdWhirl decide which network to work for that?
So right now, the allocation decisions are not based on like geographic criteria or in general. What you can do, and we'll demo this in a second, but you can basically decide to assign a percentage of your traffic to a given ad network. However, there are some backfill options. So if, for example, you were to set a certain percentage allocation to the various ad networks, in the first request, we would try with that set of preference, right? If one network wasn't very strong in a particular geography, it would probably come back with no ad, in which case we would go to the backfill. And so you would then likely get the network that is strong in that particular geography or region, country, to actually serve the ad. So yeah, internationally, it's also very useful to have a mediation layer because not all networks have the same ad inventory across the world. And if you have a lot of traffic coming from different countries, it might be a good way with a very, without having to ever resubmit the app, you can just handle all this traffic and all these variations through the mediation layer. All right.